I do not want to be your punching bag, 'cause I'm done with that. I will not let myself be a doormat, 'cause I don't want to be walked on. What will you do when I am nowhere to be found? What will you do when I'm not around? It seems like every day it's something else. Sometimes you'll have to do things by yourself, 'cause I can't do it all for you. What will you do when I am nowhere to be found? What will you do when I'm not around? Will you go find someone else when you need some help? Will you tell them that they're doing it wrong? Well, I guess that's how it is. I do not want to be your punching bag, 'cause I'm done with that. I will not let myself be a doormat, 'cause I don't want to be walked on. What will you do when I am nowhere to be found? What will you do when I'm not around? We are the ones who don't know what we're fighting for. Give us a gun and send us all off to war. We are the ones who grow up in violent homes. We are the ones who don't know what's right or wrong. I know. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No more. We are the ones who don't know why we're losing score. Give them a badge so they can send us to the morgue. We are the ones who are scared to walk out the door. We are the ones who don't know what we're dying for. I know. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones ones who are born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest episode of I'm No Joe, your home for all things combat sports and the place where every armchair quarterback can feel like Eddie Bravo. The views and opinions presented on the I'm No Joe channel belong solely to the person expressing them, no one else. If we say it, that means we meant it. That being said, this show does contain adult themes, adult content, and general shit that you shouldn't be letting your kids intake. Be advised, viewer discretion is recommended. Proceed at your own risk. You've been warned. And now, a dramatic reading from Max Acorn. Hit. Sonic shot awake. The night sky. Oh, hang on. Goddamn microphone. There we go. Should be back to good now. Wouldn't be our show if it didn't give us a little headache up front, did it? There we go. Okay, we're good. As I was saying. Holy shit. Sonic shot awake. Just as he climaxed in Zelda's soft hand. Between the disorientation of waking up suddenly and the rush of the positive stimulus, it took him a few seconds to find his bearings and clear his thoughts. Breathing heavily, he looked at Zelda and then to his crotch. He saw his cock. He saw her hand. He saw his semen on her hand. He looked back at her. All Zelda gave him was an eager grin. Wow, he finally spoke. That's one way to wake up. Welcome, boys and girls, children of appropriate ages, to the latest episode of the I'm No Joe podcast, the show where every armchair quarterback can feel like Eddie Bravo. Today, as like most days, we have got a glorious panel here ready to break down the shit-talking and the shenanigans, all the fun and the fuckery waiting for you since we were here last. First and foremost, before we get into all the fun and fuckery, gentlemen, how the hell are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. What's going on? It's good to meet you, TJ. I was here last week and you were gone last week.
Yeah, I took a hiatus. I was possibly out offing someone. Kind of needed a place to stay, but my cover was blown. So here we are this week, back at it again. And all of that is alleged. I just want to make sure that's very allegedly. Well, nice to meet you as well.
Yes.
Let the shit talking and fuckery begin.
Indeed. No, for those of you wondering, yes, that is real fan fiction that we started the show with. That is by an author named Max Acorn. It's called Sonic's Adventure. I encourage you to look into some of that. It is interesting to say the very least. That being said, first and foremost, as we like to kick things off around here, a little bit of news and recent events, fun things, fight announcements, and fuckery that has fallen down the combat sports pipeline since we saw you wonderful folks last. First and foremost, finalizing last night, PFL is officially set for their lightweight and welterweight tournament $1 million finals. Clay Collard versus Oban Austin Mercier, and I believe his name is Sadibu C versus Magomed Magomedkarov. Interesting fights that played out last night. If nothing else, I absolutely encourage you to go back and watch that Clay Collard versus Shane Burgos. That was 15 minutes of straight fucking fire in a contestable very controversial, I would say, 29-28 decision at the very end to send Collard into the finals. So Burgos just could not catch a break, much as the PFL might have been trying, and Ray Seppo was just trying to wipe that Dana White privilege off and put a little PFL shine on it. They just couldn't quite get there. So we do know who our $1 million contestants are. We will see how that plays out a little bit further. Next thing on from there, back over to the UFC side of things here. We did get confirmation this week, both from Dana White and from Conor McGregor himself. Conor's not fighting this year. All the December prospects, the maybes, the could-bes, the possibilities, no, it is official. They are not going to give Conor the Brock Lesnar exemption, and it is already too late for him to be in the pool for 6 months to fight at any point during 2023. Earliest we will possibly see Conor McGregor in the octagon for the UFC, I believe at this point, will be the end of February 2024. So we will see at this point, despite all the crying and the fucking complaining, if he actually just gets his ass back in the fucking USADA pool, or if we continue the charade moving into next year. I would probably bet more on the latter, but we'll see.
I'm just saying, my bingo card said not this year, boys.
We talked about that in the beginning of July when that date was coming close, that he had to be in the pool by or not. And we all watched the website. They updated every fucking day. His name never popped on the damn list. So the bill come
There's
due.
only so much time in a year. So
Yep, bill
and
come
if you're
due.
not on it for 6 months, you're out.
That's right. So moving from there, we did get a fair amount of pretty interesting fight announcements come out this week. The first one here, in just 2 weeks fucking change-up time, Volkan Ozdemir now has a completely brand new opponent for his matchup in Paris, taking place on September 2nd. He will now be welcoming another brand newbie to the UFC, Bogdan Guskov. Interesting prospect, interesting stylistic matchup for Volkan. But again, this is one of those 2 weeks short notice fucking fights for both gentlemen. So there's no telling how this is going to play out. And with a card as important as UFC Paris should be, we'll see how this shakes loose as we get a little closer to that. Speaking of shaking loose, though, we got a pair of announcements. I guess it's a trio of announcements here pertaining to the UFC Sydney card 3 weeks out from now, September 10th for UFC 293. First, we found out over the course of the weekend, or I believe it was on Monday, that over the course of the weekend, Kaya Kara France suffered a concussion during training. And after seeking medical attention and consulting with his team, they have decided to pull him from that fight. He is still experiencing symptoms. It's just too short of a period of time, understandably. So they officially pulled him from that fight. And in what is seeming to become a recurring pattern here on both sides of the coin, Manel Kape initially took to social media and started chastising someone for a health condition. So fuck him right out the goddamn gate, because this isn't the first time he's done that either. But B, again, we've got someone who gets injured in training to face Manel Kape, and then Manel Kape seemed to think, so what? Fight with a debilitating injury. You cannot rush a concussion healing. I don't care how bad you want to do something. So Manel needs to just shut the fuck up and sit the fuck back. Luckily for him, though, the UFC does seem to favor him, because they did find him a replacement fighter in the form of Felipe Dos Santos to step in and take over that matchup for him. Now, seeming to leave a city kickboxing shaped hole in that card with no KKF on there, but Manel still fighting. The UFC matchmakers seem to have slipped a quick one in, because we got the announcement just this afternoon confirmed. One Mike Blood Diamond himself is now being added to that UFC 293 card, taking on Charlie Ratke to keep the CBK presence on that Sydney card strong. Now, the other fight that they have announced here that is coming right on the heels of that 293 card, September 23rd, the week after the UFC De Noche card on the big night that will be, the following pay-per-view, or not, excuse me, the following fight night on the non-pay-per-view hangover weekend for September 23rd, we'll be seeing the words are difficult right now. The return of one Ricardo Ramos stepping in to no short feet against Charles Air Jourdain. So they're not going to give Ramos an easy fight coming back after a long fucking layoff. And at the same time, if Jourdain makes short work of Ramos, there's not a lot you can do to keep him from that conversation any longer. He's made short work of everyone that has been put in front of him in spectacular fashion for the most part. So this might be what they're looking for as an excuse to throw Jourdain really into the hype machine. That being said, still, ironically enough, not on the official UFC website yet, but fights are being announced for it. The October 14th, I believe it would be UFC Vegas 81 at the Apex, got a trio of announcements added to it this week. The first one, fresh off missing weight and fucking up all kinds of things, getting a reward from Dana White as they often do, Michel Pereira got himself a fight up at middleweight against Marc-Andre Barriault on that October 14th UFC Vegas 81 card. Not sure rewarding that fucking clown for missing weight and throwing that whole fiasco into the works is the right decision. But on the other hand, I'm still hoping Marc-Andre Barriault beats the brakes off of that fucking moron and we get to giggle like little kids. We'll see. The other three fights that have been announced for that one, maybe not quite as big name-wise, but I think entertainment-wise, absolutely as fun. The first one, Emily Ducote stepping in to take on Ashley Yoder in what I'm hoping is a loser or both of you gets walking papers fight. Fingers fucking crossed. Adrian Yanez stepping back in, trying to get the wheels back on the right track, taking in a tough out in Jonathan Martinez, who himself needs a big fucking win to help keep his contract steady. And then the one that I am most excited about over all these announcements here for that October 14th fight card, David Dvorak stepping back in, taking on none other than the hottest prospect himself, Tatsuro Taira. That kid, I am fucking telling you, strap a rocket to his asshole because he's going to the moon. Taira is the fucking future of mixed martial arts in that division. And I like David Dvorak, but I don't know if he has got enough of what it takes where it counts to stop that young man from steamrolling on through. We will find out in October, though. The following week after that, once we get to Abu Dhabi for UFC 294 on October 21st, very interesting ladies matchup added to that card. Victoria Dudakova trying to keep that shine going, stepping in against Jinyu Frey, a tough out for anybody, in my opinion. That is a very exciting prospect fight. Excuse me, a prospect of a very exciting fight. And also, just because, like I say often, I'm a petty bitch, makes me giggle a little bit that they're adding more ladies fights to the Abu Dhabi card. Rubbing that hypocrisy, motherfuckers. We did get some very interesting, basically full fucking rundown here, announcements for the November 4th, what is going to essentially be a fight night Sao Paulo, Brazil. Holy shit, is this a matchup here? So the card will be headlined by Curtis Blades versus Jailton Almeida, which is already a fucking great fucking fight. Now we're adding this fucking name. I believe it's Renat Fekradinitov, the guy who made up himself a record and then he erased the record that he made up, but then he retired Kevin Lee, so everybody forgot about that part. Stepping in, taking on Elizo Zaleski, who can't decide what his last name is because it used to be Dos Santos. Still, decent fighters in the both of them, makes for an interesting pair up since it's taking place in Brazil. The next one here, what the fuck is his name? Vitor Petrino, there it is. Stepping in to take on Modestas Bukauskas. That's going to be a fun fucking fight stylistically to watch. And then the big one here, Rodolfo Vieira versus Armin Petrosian is on that card. The one that they are excited, at least I'm excited to see, Denise Gomes taking on Angela Hill in a full camp. You've got plenty of fucking time. Should be no excuses, bitch. Fight. Hopefully, oh my God, everything is crossed right now. this will be the last time we have to see Angela Hill, because I see very few ways she gets past Denise. But we will find out as we get a little bit closer, and as we get down towards that Brazil way, we'll see how things shake loose. November 18th, back to Vegas again. Very, very interesting stylistic matchup. Jordan Levitt stepping back in to take on Chase Hooper. That fight is either going to be spectacular or two skinny dudes doing what Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou did in the octagon a while back. One of the two. There's no way to tell, but that fight's got lots of fucking potential on it. November 11th, Madison Square Garden, UFC 295, headlined by Jones versus Stipe. Another one that I'm not going to say everybody, I will say a lot of people are excited about. Jessica Andrade stepping back in to try to stop the progress of Mackenzie Dern. I don't know how that one shakes loose, because in my opinion, that's banging soup cans together. You're only going to get clinky noises and nothing fun's going to come of it. But we know for a fact that UFC is going to put some push behind Dern if she can get past Andrade. And on the other side of that, if she stops the forward progress of Mackenzie Dern, the whole quote unquote, she's still a champion and immediate push to try and get Andrade back to the top is going to start again as well. So maybe not the most exciting fight, but a lot riding on the outcome of that fight, to say the least. As far as non-fight announcement news, we got a couple of interesting ones here. The first two actually, PFL has officially signed Savannah Marshall, one of Clarissa Shields' main adversaries and an undisputed reigning champion in women's boxing right now, who is amongst a handful of ladies boxers who have started following Amanda Serrano and Clarissa Shields and several others, beginning to make their way into the MMA world, realizing that dealing with takedowns is a lot easier than dealing with the bureaucracy in the boxing world right now. And the paychecks on the MMA side of things seem to be, at least for the moment, a little bigger than some of the ladies' paychecks in the boxing side of things are. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because they are intending to put her in this super fight division that they're putting together with all of these other boxers that they've signed, and they're going to do pay-per-views with them. Can we get enough interest in boxers coming to MMA to carry a pay-per-view, especially if it's not the UFC, the name that everyone mostly knows, doing the carrying? We're about to find out. Kind of an interesting one here. Despite what was initially reported, it turns out now that maybe the six-figure bitch out clause that Logan had put on his contract with Dylan Dennis might not have been as enforceable or worded the way that he led people to believe it was. And now it very much starts to look like not only does Dylan, like we all expected, have zero fucking interest in this fight, but now it's looking like he's probably laying the groundwork to just back out of it, having realistically never should have signed the fucking contract to begin with, knowing that this six-figure bitch out clause turns out to what looks like be bullshit. So to their credit, I say it all the time, credit where credit is due, regardless of how you feel about the person. They went out and brought themselves in a backup in case Dylan Dennis most likely pulls out of this fight before it happens. And it's going to surprise most people. They brought in none other than Aluminum Mike Perry himself, who is more than happy and has been chomping at the bit to get himself into this boxing circle. Well, this might be his foot in the door, because once he knocks one out, you know damn well he's going to go for the other. And I have very little doubt in my mind that if he gets in that ring with Logan, it's going to be bad for Logan, as ugly as it's going to be. So we will see how that one actually plays actually plays out as we get a little closer to it. But it feels like there was some loose wording, to say the least, in that contract before it was bragged about.
I'm just praying to God he doesn't pull out because I really don't want to hear about Mike Perry. Fuck that dude.
I mean, at this point, I would rather see the face of BKFC get in there and make some money off of those fucking clowns than Dildo Dennis.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. I would rather see Mike Perry in there. I think I just, man,
I would
that dude's
rather see that
awesome.
money go into the Nigerian Nightmare than Connor's jockstrap holder.
I'm just saying. I have a deep hatred for Mike Perry going all the way back, and it will continue to go forward. Fuck that guy. He can do his shit in BKFC and be irrelevant. Because as much as I hate to say it, BKFC is still irrelevant, even though they've got some great shit going on. When you're trying to make Mike Perry the face of your organization, that makes you irrelevant. But I mean, they've got John Dodson now, so they've got
I was gonna say they've got the Magic Man.
Yeah.
much better face of the organization. That's all I'm saying.
Right. No, we got I guess we'll technically call it a pair of announcements, even though we were presented with both sets of information prior. It is now official. Myra Buena Silva and Walt Harris have officially been suspended by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Walt Harris, we knew a month or so ago, had tested hot and just basically went radio silent on it. We kind of all had a strong guess on what's going on there. And then we found out last week that Myra Buena Silva pissed hot, fired from words. Myra Buena Silva pissed hot from her fight with Holly Holm. So, of course, Jessica Pena, not one to leave low-hanging fruit lie, ran right in and tried to scoop that up and talk all kinds of shit. But both of them are officially now on the naughty list with Nevada, waiting full sentencing from USADA and the Athletic Commission once the findings in both cases are presented officially. But not to be outdone, speaking of morons who pissed hot and can't own up to it, women's boxing legend Alicia Baumgardner has officially had a oopsie and a half, or has she? She this week has officially come out ahead of a positive test for, let me make sure I get this correct, 2 different substances, mesterolone and what the fuck is the other one here? Methanolone acetate metabolite. So we do have a direct statement from Alicia Baumgardner, which kind of puts everything in a little bit of a different light here. Directly quoting from Alicia here. On August 12th, 2023, I was informed that a, quote, A sample I provided on July 12th, 2023, resulted in, and I quote, adverse analytical findings of mesterolone and methanolone acetate metabolites, 2 substances I have never heard of or used in any way. The sample provided immediately after my fight on July 15th, 2023, tested clean and negative for all substances, as well as my sample from June 16th prior to that, 2023, which puts the July 12th puts the July 12th results essentially impossibly into question. On one hand, I understand having a test before and a test after clean does make it look suspicious. But as we have seen with several other cases in several other sports, that in no way means that you weren't using steroids. Saying that you don't know or haven't heard of these things doesn't mean that you didn't take steroids. And despite her saying that this brings those results into question, they have now tested and retested the sample, and the results have been confirmed. 2 different banned substances, one substance and then a metabolite of another substance, meaning that that substance was there and is leaving traces on its way out on a picogram level, John Jones style. You can tell me all you want, you didn't take something, but if the metabolites from that thing are testable and verifiably, repeatably testable in your bloodstream right now, you took the fucking thing, whether you hit it or not. We don't have to take your word for it. We have science that proves that. That's why these tests are in place. So it's going to be very interesting because that fight was critically important for them. And the fact that it went the distance and was so highly contested legitimately brings both the testing regiment and the promoters and subsequently boxing as a whole on the women's side into a bright, giantly magnified fucking spotlight, which kind of makes sense if you look at what we talked about earlier, where ladies are starting to make their way out of the boxing world and into the MMA world. Less bullshit, more money, no bureaucracy. I wonder if we may see Alicia Bumgardner looking for an MMA contract very soon. She's out ahead saying that this is bullshit, but she's also a very recognizable household ladies boxing name with credible skill. She would make a badass MMA fighter with the right camp around her. So is this her transition point? Is this going to bring testing into light? There's a whole lot to be had from this story. And even though it is boxing and not MMA, it will have directly rippling effects one way or another. So I'm very curious to see how this one plays out as we get a little further into the quote unquote investigation. So the last one I've got here in regards to that, it kind of ties into the theme of these last few here. A gentleman by the name of Willie Monster Floyd, whopping record as a professional MMA fighter of 3-4, is making news this week, not for his fighting prowess, but for being the first publicly recognized name of a mixed martial artist to be tied to Donald J. Trump's RICO charges. Now that those people have started to turn themselves in because it is being brought forward, it is going to be very interesting to see if the man who was once the head of the, and I quote, Black Voices for Trump organization and subsequent leadership will now end up on a mugshot for Trump, along with his fellow conspirators. Not one to generally get too political on this show, but when you tie my MMA world to your bullshit politics, I'm going to make fun of you, so enjoy jail, Willie. That being said, unfortunately, this week, as like most weeks, we end the news segment as we end it most times, in that we have gone another full week with Dana White still not facing any real-world repercussions for slapping his wife New Year's Eve down in Cancun, Mexico. And no, Dana, despite your repeated attempts to make us think so, having to live with the knowledge that that event happened is not actual punishment, and I will continue to repeat such. You're a scumbag. That being said, either one of you gentlemen have any news I might have missed this week?
Not off the top of my head.
No, there's nothing. There was several things you brought up I completely forgot about already. It's been kind of a chaotic week.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that being said, normally this would be the point where I wax poetically about how it's nice to have a young person here on the show that helps us finger the pulse of MMA and keep us in touch. But tonight, as you may be able to tell if you are watching, unfortunately not as easy if you are just listening. Christian is not with us. As we say around here, life happens. He's got other things going on, so we will see him again next week. That being said, luckily for all of us involved, The Ultimate Fighter is fucking over. I did see, to Christian's credit, that this week's Dana White's Contender Series on Tuesday night only gave out 3 contracts and not the whopping 5 they've gotten us used to. So that is a good thing. But in light of Christian's Cans and Contenders series here, I'm curious if you gentlemen have a can and a contender, or a fight that could be a can or a contender for this week's card that we can talk about in his honor.
Oh, I've definitely got a can on here. What is it? Tatsumi Kazama. Fucking can. Came in to his first fight in UFC, got knocked the fuck out, and yet here he is getting a second one. And he didn't get knocked out by a fucking somebody. It was another no-name guy coming in off of this fucking. He's basically contender series material that needs to go back to the contender series, and
I think even that might be gracious.
that's definitely a little gracious. But just saying, that's out there. That the other one that I'm continuing to add to the can category until they fucking release him, Waldes Cortez Acosta. Because Waldo is fucking nothing more than a power puncher who will end up gassing himself out. And when he finally gets somebody who's worth a damn, he's gonna get slept.
You mean you don't want to see Salsa Boy get in there and Walrus slap fight with the big lazy Pollock?
No, I put him in the same category as a couple other fighters where I just don't want to watch them. So, to be honest, I'm glad that the prelims start at 4 o'clock in the fucking morning, and I will probably still be sleeping at that point. I'll probably wake up for the main card in time for the main card, but I will make it a fucking necessity. If I wake up at 6 a.m., I'm not turning on the UFC until 7 a.m. So I don't have to even think about watching that fight half asleep, even. Oh,
Definitely
no.
understand.
And on the contenders side, I do have a contender that I did want to talk about, just as he's had a bit of a rough go lately. But I think Chidi and Giaconi has that capability to turn it back around because he came in pretty fucking hot into the UFC. His last two fights, they were pretty fucking rough. I mean,
Rough go, yeah.
he got fucking knocked out by Buff Obama after fucking Buff Obama's face all up with that giant cut. So he was well on his way there, but
yeah,
let his foot off the gas.
that was a great fight.
And then lost a fucking decision, the split decision to Albert Duraev, which, to be honest, what he was doing to Buff Obama, he should have had no problem offing Duraev. So I think after that get knocked out thing, he finally got his wheels back under him for Duraev, but not fully. I think this is where we see him make that turnaround and start heading back up.
Well, and Duraev's a fucking beast too. People don't give that dude enough credit, man. That motherfucker's a machine. When it comes to fucking wearing you down, that dude fucking takes his job very seriously. So the fact that he went to Splitty City with Duraev, that was a great fight as well. But yeah, that Buff Obama fight, man. If you haven't seen what that dude did to Gregory Rodriguez before Rodriguez came back and fucking laid him, go look at that one for damn sure.
Granted, if it gets out of the first round, Mikhail's gonna have him beat because Chidi's a first round finisher or he ends up losing. Unless they've worked on that in camp somehow. Hopefully they're making him do 10 rounds instead of fucking 3.
What do you think, Ramey?
Honestly, I agree with everything you just said. You kind of like those would have been the words that I would have spouted. the same fighters, like you literally tapped on everything I had. I had nothing outside of that. Just FYI, like nothing. you rocked that out hard.
So I've got, we'll call it 2 contenders in a can here. We'll give it a can sandwich. We'll compliment sandwich the can here to make them feel better about themselves. So my first contender here, Sungwoo Choi. He's curtain jerking the goddamn card, and the dude never seems to get his fucking flowers, no matter how he performs. And the dude always goes out there like a fucking soldier. Either he goes out on his shield or with it. There's no two fucking ways about it. That dude is fun fucking times. And bringing in a newbie to start the fucking show, let Sungwoo have his fucking fun. I'm betting that curtain jerker is going to be real fucking interesting. Ironically enough, my can falls in place right fucking behind him in JJ Aldrich. Folks, Mick Maynard, Sean Shelby, Dana's not going to listen, so I'm talking to you two. Look at me. I'm the Dana now. Why are we doing this? Why are we still playing this game? Why are we pretending that JJ Aldrich hasn't shown a long time ago she ain't got it? I get that you're going to try and use her here, but why are we doing this? Let it go. Just let go. It's a band-aid. It's going to hurt, but it will get better. Like at any arson site. That being said, my final contender is actually across from TJ's can. Kansas City's own Garrett Armfield getting back in there after that fucking amazing fight that he had with David Onama. He's had to take a little bit of time off and get some healing done. Well, he's healed up and he's coming to Singapore to kick ass and take names. And like we mentioned just a minute ago, he's got a real kickable ass across the octagon from him. So in theory, no MMA math applied, just logic. In theory, Garrett should be able to come out here and put on a fucking barn burner of a show against a can like Toshiami. We've seen stranger things happen and upsets go, but we've also seen what Garrett is capable of versus what Toshiami is capable of. And if I had to pick one of the two, gun to my head, take my fucking money, I'm getting on that Armfield train all day long. That boy has got it. Just needs a chance to shine. So, that being said, this would normally be the point in a podcast where you would get a B-roll and a big fucking shitty commercial about stuff that the people on the podcast don't actually fucking use, and a company that doesn't actually give a shit about that podcast. Well, we don't fucking play that game here. If you want to help support the I'm No Joe podcast, patreon.com/I'm No Joe. For as little as $1 a month, you will get your name as a thank you on the end of every single broadcast on this channel, as well as unfettered access to unaired and literally unairable content, things we legally have to hide behind a paywall and verify that you're of age before even you get to see. Helps us do what we do, and we appreciate it just the same. That being said, this is the point in the evening where we are going to debut a little new thing that we've got working out here. A little thing where sometimes you think you know how something's going to go, and then you look into it a little bit and you go, I might have been a little bit early jumping to that conclusion. In a little segment that we're going to call Rethinking with Ramy.
I like the name. Came up with that earlier. Love it. I find myself flip flopping through the fight on certain fights, and there's a couple honestly, and one of them just happened a little while ago. I wasn't expecting it, but then I started thinking about some things and looking at some things, and I was like, well, shit. Now I don't know. I mean, look, we all know how we think this fight's going to go down, and we're all probably right. We're all probably correct. The Holloway zombie fight. We're all probably absolutely fucking correct that zombie is not going to win this. That Holloway is literally he's going to be there the whole time, and he is just going to make it look silly, kind of like he's been making people look for the last couple of years now. And however, during the press conference, I got to see a little weepy-eyed Holloway, and I started thinking, okay, I've never seen an emotional Holloway. What is this going to do? He's usually the most level-headed, flow state fighters you've ever seen. Like, he just gets in there, hits that flow state, and just lets it take over. I don't know what this is going to do after the fire's over in Hawaii. So, that's what got into my head. I'm like, all right, how is this going to play out now? Now, again, we all know Holloway's most likely. Here's the thing. I just don't know if his head is going to be 100% in it, and is that going to allow the zombie to have a chance? That's all I'm saying. That was what kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting to see, and I was like, holy shit! Now I'm kind of rethinking this just the tiniest bit. That's kind of what happened with me in the O'Malley fight. I started rethinking it just the tiniest bit, and it ended up paying off that time. This time, I'm still. I'm going the other way with it. I'm pretty sure Holloway's got this in the bag. However, there's this tiny bit of me right now that is just like, what if that emotion of what's going on over there is going to end up distracting from the task at hand? That's all. That's where I had on that. So, but there was a second one this week that I did not see myself flip flopping on until I looked at something and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So look, everyone's writing Smith off. He's written off as far as everyone's concerned. I mean, the odds are kind of close. I mean, I think the majority of people, if you ask them, they're all going to say Span. And I don't doubt that. You know, I mean, Span is amazing. You know, he's in there for a reason, but so is Smith. But if you look at Span's last loss, Smith's last win, Smith beat him. I don't have any reason to think he's going to go in there and do anything different that got him that win. So that's the one that I rethought, and I am going to go with Smith on. I know that one is a little bit of a long shot in a lot of people's eyes, but I have rethought that one, and I think Smith coming on, you know, off of 2 losses, and his last win was Span. I think that's you know, that's going to boost him. That's going to keep his spirits up, knowing that was his last win. He may look at it and go, I've figured this guy once. I've figured him out once. I can figure him out again. So I don't know but those were my 2. Yeah, after I had a chance to really sit there, those are the only 2 that really did that to me. Everything else on the fight card is, I feel like, is pretty easy. But those 2, and maybe it's because I feel like I know them a little better because they've been in the game longer. You know, you know, that's kind of the reason I'm going to go Smith on that one for sure. I know it's that a lot of people are looking at that as a long shot, but I don't. And then look, they are ranked 9th and 10th. Like, they're right there. And you look at the odds, they're right there. They're dead even. So, I mean, it's anyone's match, but I still think Smith could pull this off. I think he's going to pull it off the exact same way he did it the last time. That's what I got this week. Next week, I'll try to have more. But yeah, those are my 2 rethinks with Remy.
Good shit. Thank you very much, sir. I think you're pretty right on with a lot of that. I agree 100% with the Max thing. Like, we don't see Max get emotional very often, and his emotions might be the one thing that Chang Sung Jung needs to get in there and really do some work. Because if Max is distracted, oh man,
that's what I'm afraid of. It occurred to me during watching the press conference today. I was like, oh God, I didn't see this. I didn't see this coming. And I was like, I got to go rethink some things because like, he's not that guy. He's not that emotional fighter. This is a job. It's always been a job for him.
Right.
You know, I can say I agree. It's off kilter for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to relate this to a Monday Night Football game.
I thought about it that direction too, kind of. But yeah.
Brett Favre lost his father. Just the fucking day before, goes out and plays that Monday. Has the best game of his entire fucking career.
Yep.
I think we could see something similar out of Max.
Absolutely.
He's not fighting for just himself. He's fighting for the entire state of Hawaii right now.
Right. Absolutely.
If he goes out there, shows them, hey, even under bad circumstances, we can adapt, overcome. It might be a really bad night for the Korean Zombie.
It could be super embarrassing for him. Absolutely. Like, it could be.
But I mean, at the same time, there's the other side of that where we just saw the Korean Zombie go through something similar, where Korea got all fucked up. His gym got fucking wrecked and had to rebuild. God. So if anything, there's going to be a whole lot of mutual respect going on there between the 2 of them over that.
That's true. That's true. And you're absolutely right, because I did think of that in that context too. Like, what if Max just goes in there and that flow state hits the second he steps in the cage and he just destroys him in the first round? Because, I mean, he may want to just say, fuck it, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
And, but it's just a matter of how much it's in his head, how much he's in the fight, and either way. But you're right. It could go either direction with that. That is absolutely right.
I will say, I respectfully disagree on the Smith-Spann fight, though. I did have a very similar thought process to yours a couple weeks ago when it came to the Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje fight, because very similarly, there was nothing leading into that fight to give anybody any indication that Dustin wasn't just going to beat the shit out of fucking Gaethje again, outbox the fuck out of him, and put him on his ass.
Oh, yeah.
And then here comes out of nowhere, Justin Gaethje can throw head kicks and accurate. So I'm not the biggest fan of either Smith or Ryan Spann, but they also are both coming off of real weird performances. Smith coming off that injury on top of a weird performance and then the time off. I would like to think that this one's going to play out the same way that the first one did, but after Justin and Dustin put a bad taste in my mouth, I'm almost thinking Spann might have the edge here.
All right, I'm not going to disagree in that. However, the only reason I'm saying this is because of the Smith injury and the 2 losses. I believe this is a hang him up or move forward.
Yeah, that very well could be.
You know what I mean? So I feel like he's going to come out fighting hard. I really do. I think he's close. Like if he loses this and he goes into another fight and loses, it's over with.
Yeah.
So
if he loses this one, probably his last either way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I feel like this is literally a breaking point in his career. If he wins this, then he's got a chance to keep moving forward. But with a loss here and another one after that, it's over with. So I feel like this is an everything fight for him.
This is either he stays in the cage or he goes to the desk.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I would rather see him in the cage, but he's great on the fucking desk.
I was gonna say,
absolutely.
I'm mad either way, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna be mad at it either way. I'm just saying I feel like this is literally one of those make it or break it. It's gonna be real close to over, if not over after this. Like I can almost see him taking the gloves off in the cage if Spann beats him.
Right.
Well,
that and I just hate to say it, Lionheart is getting long in the tooth as far as age is concerned.
It really is.
You're getting towards that point where it's either you make that one last push for it, or you really gotta seriously think about fucking laying them down.
Yep. That's exactly why I decided to flip flop on this one, because I feel like he's going to come in there full Lionheart, and he knows this is getting close. He's a smart man. He knows he's getting close to the end, like one way or another.
I agree.
And with a loss here and another loss after that, he's done. So I feel like he's going to come out and fight hard. That's my thinking behind that one.
I could definitely see that for sure.
But yeah, I get your side of it too. I can totally understand that, going that route, too many times and then getting, hammered too many times. But yeah, I just feel like this is a kind of a make it or break it for Smith. His career is close.
I agree. Good call on both fights, sir. Much appreciated. Look forward to see what you got next week as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So that being said, that'll bring us to the point where the only segment on the show that requires its own individual disclaimer. me. Tapology.com does not in any way, shape, or form support, sponsor, or endorse the I'm No Joe podcast. Yet. That being said, Tapology.com does offer you the option to use their site, create a free account, and make fantasy-style fight picks like we talk about here on the show. They even allow you to make groups so like-minded individuals can make picks. We made one group just like that. We call it I'm No Bookie, all one word, or Group 965, however you need to search it. The group is open to the public. You are more than welcome and encouraged to go on, make yourself an account, join the group, and put your picks head-to-head against ours in a little segment we recap. We call it Tapology with TJ.
Welcome back. I'm guessing you guys covered what happened the previous week while I was gone, so I'm not even going to touch that. We're just going to leave that fucking dead dog lie there. So, being as last week Thursday show did not go off on Thursday as was supposed to, I left Friday morning to go camping. So now where this comes into play, I'm going to start off right with last week's pick, and that little short clip of a story is for a reason.
1 second. Where are you pulling your odds from?
I'm
the site
pulling
that you
mine
usually
from
pull them.
BetMGM.
BetMGM. God damn it. I said it was something with an M, but I couldn't remember what it was. So I ended up just using DraftKings last week. But I knew it was something with an M. I
They're
couldn't
usually
remember.
pretty similar. DraftKings and BetMGM, they're pretty close.
I knew it was something with an M. Sorry. I had to.
It's all good. It's all good. So we're going to go into last week's results. Now, the reason why I said that little quip about me going to go camping is I generally make my picks on Friday, just in case there's fucking weigh-in misses and shit like that. It can help me curtail the way that I make my picks. I'm like, okay, I can do that from the fucking campground. Oh, and behold me, the campground has no fucking service where we're at. Great. Cool. I need to disconnect anyways. Downside. I didn't just run over my dick. I chopped it off, drug it behind my truck for 3 hours to get to the campground, then backed over it and put a tent stake through that son of a bitch and called it a fucking week. So, if we're going to go this route of no picks correct, that's me this week, because God only knows what my picks would have been or where they would have been at. Now, on to what actually happened for everyone else while I was away and given the free reign of the house. I guess there was also a positive to this. I didn't have to pick between a giant douche and a turd sandwich last week and fucking the goddamn main event over there, because to be honest, Sterling or O'Malley, giant douche, turd sandwich, doesn't matter, both shitbags. So I won last week with that, not having to do it. So winner, chicken dinner. However, somebody needs to hire a hitman, because Donna is back beating the fucking brakes off of everybody in our group. 11 of 12 correct, 755 fucking points.
We checked after the show. She ended up at 153rd place, tied for 153rd place with, I believe, 12 other people out of almost 6,000 people that made picks for last week's card.
Yeah, unfortunately.
The extra irony was that 2 weeks ago, it was Christian and I battling out every fucking fight all the way to the end to see who was going to take the top. He ended up getting me by 10 points, motherfucker. But then last week, it was the inverse. Christian and I were racing each other to the fucking bottom, and I barely fucking beat him. But luckily, somebody else forgot, and I didn't trip over my dick.
So, the unfortunate part of Donna winning is that means Don is still doing dishes in the house, even though he came in second place with 10 of 12 correct. Man, that's a rough day when you still got to do dishes in your fucking house because you only missed one fucking pick. Although she was 100 points ahead, so even with one pick, unless it was a perfect, he was fucked anyways. Now, at the bottom, for people who actually made picks, Meter pulled it off with 7 of 12. Barely outdone by Christian with 7 of 12. He just got that one perfect pick in there that saved his ass. Now, there's one other honorable mention I need to put in here, because just with all things, you generally think luck goes to the new guy. Remy shot himself in the fucking foot, too. Shot himself in the goddamn foot with 7 of 12. He just got a couple extra of those little add-on additional points there. That's the only thing that put him up above Christian.
Yeah, I called a couple different than you did as far as the wins, I think.
I'm just saying, maybe it's not the new person luck. Maybe Donna is just the fucking savant when it comes to making picks because she's been tearing ass through us for the last fucking 3 months now, 4 months.
Yeah, 3 months consistently, pretty much.
Yeah, she's always towards the top. To be honest, I think it's time that we take a little pool and allegedly hire what I'm going to call the Tapology hitman and make her tap out.
A dishwasher repairman, if you will.
A dishwasher repairman would be great.
Wink, wink.
No, congratulations to Donna. This week I will make sure I get picks in tomorrow. But it's gonna have to be early because being as those fights start at 4 o'clock in the fucking morning Central Time. Or was it Central Time? Yeah. 4 o'clock Central Time. You're gonna need them in early tomorrow if you don't have them in already. See, Ramey already got his in for this week, which that's a ballsy fucking move, putting them in this
You're right.
when shit could get canceled and your whole fucking.
I know. I may have to go in and tinker later, but
you can do the tinker thing if you get up at like 2:33 in the morning. You'll have an hour. You can pull the Don in Kansas City.
I was gonna say
he was doing it while we were eating dinner before the fucking fight. So
getting ready to walk into the fights, and he goes, "No, I better make a couple changes on his phone while we're eating."
That's me. That's me. Totally.
Don literally did while we were all together in Kansas City eating. As we were getting ready to walk to the T-Mobile Center, we could see that motherfucker, and he literally pulled out his phone and logged in and made fucking changes to his picks.
I love it.
He'll have time, but I'm just saying that's still ballsy to put him in that fucking early.
Yeah, but it is. You're right. I do like waiting until the full weigh-ins and stuff. I prefer seeing them emaciated. That way, I kind of get to see what they're going to, how much they're having to refuel before the fights. That goes a long way to how they, how your brain can take a punch. It's been proven.
Oh yeah. With that being said, if you are not a member of the group, by all means, please come and join. Tapology.com, group 965. I'm no bookie. If you can't find it, send us a message. We will send you a fucking link. Get in. We'll talk shit about you. And if you come in like a fucking lamb on your first set of picks, know that I'm going to talk shit about you too. That's how that's going to work. Even if I do take the fucking week off. Now, on to some odds for this week. As like most weeks, there are a metric fuck ton on this card that they have as pick'ems. I'm not going to go over those because those don't fucking matter. We're going to talk about the weird odds that they do have and wide odds. The one I want to talk about first is fucking weird. Because they should not be this wide. Because the person involved is a fucking can and should be kicked off the fucking roster. And that is the JJ Aldridge Liang Na fight. For some odd reason, BetMGM has her at a minus 550 favorite. And Liang Na at a plus 400 underdog. Now, I did pull up DraftKings as well. DraftKings is right in the same fucking area, minus 520 and a plus 390. So obviously they see something that the rest of us don't, or they don't see something that the rest of us fucking do. So definitely one time to put some money on Na. Make some goddamn money because guaranteed JJ Aldrich shits the fucking bed. Just the way she is, she's not worth the fucking... I wouldn't piss on her if she was on fire. That's the kind of fighter I think she is. She's fucking trash. And they send in the fucking raccoons. Get that trash out of here. Oh, the other one I want to talk on, which goes kind of hand in hand with my can that I was talking about earlier. The guy who knocked my can out in his opening fight in the UFC, Rinya Nakamura and Fernie Garcia. They have Nakamura sitting as a minus 800 favorite in his second fight in the UFC over Fernie Garcia at a plus 550 underdog. Now, those aren't the widest odds, though. BetMGM has it a little wider, even. DraftKings has it a little wider than BetMGM. They have Nakamura at a minus 850 and Garcia at a plus 575. So look where you're making your bets here to make the best bang for your buck. Go check and see where the odds, because they're all a little different depending on where you're going to and what's available in your area to make bets if you do make bets. Oh, what's crazy is those odds are the exact same fucking odds as the main event as far as BetMGM is concerned. They have Max Holloway right now sitting at a minus 800 favorite over a plus 550 Korean Zombie and Chen Sung Jung. Those might be a little wide. I'm not going to lie. I think those odds are a little wide, especially knowing as what we know has been going on lately. And to be honest, I'm surprised that they didn't change after seeing the press conferences with Max this week and being a little emotionally unstable. And I say that loosely because he was stable, just not the kind of stable you're used to seeing out of him. So you would figure they would have kind of closed that gap a little bit, but they didn't because, well, Max Holloway beats the brakes off of motherfuckers. We watched it in Kansas City. We watched him do it a couple more times since then. I mean, so be tentative with your bets there. I'm not saying to go and bet on the Korean Zombie, but there's money to be made there in case Max Holloway does shit the bed. I'm not saying to bet the fucking house because that's a terrible fucking idea. You don't bet against Max Holloway. It's a bad idea. Now, there are a couple other smaller ones on the card that I did want to talk about because they weren't super wide odds. One of them being Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres and Giga Chikadze. They have Giga Chikadze coming in as a minus 250 favorite over a plus 200 in Alex Caceres. Those odds, I think, are pretty fucking close to being where they should be. However, we've seen a resurgence in Alex Caceres, and he's looked a lot better than he did in his younger years. So they need to be a little careful about that. That may be one where you want to bet on Alex Caceres. Although Giga Chikadze, that's a tough fucking fight right there for it. The other one I did want to mention there is Song Kenan and Ronaldo Bedoya. We got Bedoya coming in as a minus 300 favorite and Kenan coming in as a plus 240 underdog. Seems a little wider than it should be for a couple of what I'm going to say newbies to the big show. But the one where I'm saying to bet the house, bet against JJ Aldrich, take that plus 400 underdog money and make you some goddamn money because guaranteed she shits the bed. Everything else across the board, pretty fucking coin flippy. Nothing surprising with the way that the matchmakers and Vegas odds guys have been going. So at least this week, we've got a couple of crazy wide odds for people to look forward to. And again, if you haven't joined the group, go join the goddamn group.
It's fun.
Damn, Skibby. So real quick here, just for those who are actually watching and not listening next week, as of right now, literally just confirmed on the UFC's Instagram page, both the main event and co-main event are official. Both gentlemen for the main event weighed in at 146. Both gentlemen for the co-main event weighed in at 205.5 and 205.6 respectively. So as of now, awesome. Both main and co-main event are a lock. So that being said, excuse me, before we get into the UFC card, I do want to give you guys the fight menu for the weekend, as it were. So, as is most weekends, kicking off in just a few hours at 7:30 a.m. Central Time for all of you fucking daywalkers. ONE FC Friday Night Fights, because they're on the other side of the world. Number 30 takes place. Again, this is one of those cards. Not a lot of folks in the casual world are going to know a lot of these names, but this is a true mixed martial arts card. You've got actual MMA, you've got Muay Thai. I believe there's 2 kickboxing fights on this card as well. Always fun, and they're in Lupini Boxing Stadium over there in Bangkok, which always puts on a very ecstatic fucking show. It's going to be fun times if you're up early in the morning. Now, tomorrow, when we get around to it in the afternoon, 4 p.m. Central Time, Usyk versus Dubois kicks off. If you're looking for some boxing on the punchy side of the punchy kicky house, I'm telling you right now, this is not going to be the greatest fight in the world. This is not going to be your fucking Crawford versus Spence. This is not going to be your fucking Inoue that we've seen in the last couple of weeks. These great matchups. This ain't that. It will be a potentially interesting main event to the card. So if you need some boxing in your life tomorrow or Saturday afternoon, this has you covered. But in terms of the UFC, like we mentioned, this is the UFC Singapore card. The prelims will start bright and fucking early at 4 a.m. Central Time for the UFC side of things. Main event, or excuse me, the main card rather, is slated to kick off at 7 a.m. Central Time. And before we get into talking too much about the card, keep your eyes peeled, boys and girls, because starting at 4 a.m. ish Saturday morning, we here on the I'm No Joe channel will have a live fight companion. We will giving you all our own commentary and shit talking, which I'm telling you now will be more entertaining and probably more accurate than those fuckers. But for those of you who are awake, we will be giving you the live play-by-play in color that you cannot get from the UFC these days because their commentators just all suck. That being said, when it comes to this UFC Singapore card, as you may have picked up on by our talks leading up into here, it's not the greatest card in the world, but it's also not a pay-per-view. It's a fight night card. And fight night cards aren't necessarily supposed to be the best cards in the world. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't great fights on here. We've talked about a couple a little bit, but that doesn't mean that every fight on the card's a banger either. There's always going to be a couple of hidden gems snuck in here. So to help get people a little interested in this Singapore card, even if they may have to wait and catch it on a replay, I'm curious if you gentlemen have one under the radar fight that is just sliding into Singapore without getting the love it deserves.
Yeah, my money, I do have one. My money, if I'm going to throw it, is going to be the Chidi and Jaquani Mikhail Alexejek. That's gonna be a fucking banger of a middleweight fight. I really think so. That Pollock, he goes out on his shield,
He
or
goes hard, man.
or fucking he goes out swinging.
Yeah, he does.
And then Chidi's the same way. You're gonna get fireworks right from the start with him. So expect a whole lot of fucking fireworks in that fight. And don't expect it to last too long. If it gets past the first round, guaranteed Chidi loses. If it doesn't, though, we know how that's gonna go.
Yeah, that's one of the few fights on this card. I don't think the judges will necessarily be required of their services.
No, not at all. My honorable mention is the Giga Chikadze and Alex Caceres fight.
Bruce Leroy. Yeah.
That's where I was going. But yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, all those are good. Yeah, Giga Saras. I think that's going to be the underrated fight of the night right there.
I've got one that I will say this could fit in either of our pit question rounds. It could either be the most overhyped or underhyped, depending on how you're looking at it. Overhyped in terms of Ariel won't shut the fuck up about it. Underhyped in terms of the rest of the world is pretty much not getting a lot of coverage for it here. I'm calling Blanchfield versus Santos. Aaron Blanchfield is one we've been waving the fucking flag for here on the I'm No Joe channel since before she got into the fucking UFC, when she was a dangerous LFA fucking champion. And I do not get the hype on Tyla Santos, but regardless, that's number 3 and number 4. This is the number 1 contender fight for the ladies in terms of the flyweight division. And it's just kind of tucked into a UFC Singapore and kind of left out to go do its own thing.
Well, and that fight I agree with, because it's that, and it's got implications for who might be next in the flyweight division.
Yes, sir.
And the way that they're kind of now finally rocketing Blanchfield, I'm pretty sure that's her step to go, hey, you're next.
Yeah, after that meatball, after the show that she put on against the fucking meatball, you ain't got a lot of choices, man. She walked into enemy territory and did fucking work. So
And then submitted Andrade too.
yes, sir. So yeah, the rocket is poised, the fuse is ready to be lit for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Good pick.
So we'll flip that around like we do in the pit here. Which one of the several extremely fucking overhyped fights do you guys feel is getting more shine than should be? It's kind of stealing some thunder from the others, maybe.
I'm gonna call back-to-back fights. Waldo, Cortez Acosta, Lucas Brisky. Yeah. Why that is in a premier prelim spot, I don't know. Because there's at least 2 other fights below that are better than that fucking fight. At least 2. There's probably a third one in there that I'm just overlooking. And then the one to open up the fucking card. Junior Tafa and Parker Porter. Walrus fucking slap fight at its finest. If you were looking for boring fucking huffing for air by the middle of the fucking first round, you got it right there. That's a fucking terrible fight to open the main card on. Don't get me wrong, there's the off chance that somebody gets KO'd in the first 30 seconds. But after that, it's 2 big boys huffing for air. Unfortunately, that's just the way it works out.
That, and if I have to hear one more fucking person talk about how Parker Porter is trying to get revenge against the Tafa brothers by going through Junior to get to Justin, who laid him the fuck out, I'm gonna smack somebody. No one gives a fuck. The story ain't that goddamn deep.
The only thing that would make that worthwhile is to watch Junior now do it too.
That's realistically a lot more likely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was mine too. That was the top 4 to 5. So that was my pick.
Yeah, I agree. That was going to be mine as well. Parker Porter versus Junior Tafa.
Yeah.
Look, I say it all the time. I've already said it tonight, and I'll say it more. I promise you. Credit where credit is due, regardless of how you feel. Parker Porter is the epitome of a 1980s action movie villain. He looks like everyone you expect to steal a child and hold it for ransom for cocaine money. But that doesn't make you a good UFC fighter, god damn it. The look is not all that's required. O'Malley's walking proof, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't think he gets through Junior, and I think even if he does, that fucking storyline's not that goddamn deep. I don't think
I've got
run to his
Tafa
brother.
taking this. I've got Tafa taking this round 1 KO.
Yeah, I think Junior lays him the fuck out. Either that, or like TJ said, it's going to turn into an ugly 3-round walrus slap fight that's just going to be boring as shit.
Oh yeah, if it's not over in the first, it's going to be the worst fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just going to be huffing for air, laying on each other when they can, or staying away from each other to keep getting their breath.
Right.
The only thing that makes me worried that Parker Porter gets this done, Junior Tafa lost to fucking the bad Usman.
Yeah, he did that. He did that. That was ugly too. Oh, that was tap dancing around the edges of trying to push Derek and Francis out of the worst fucking slap fight we've seen.
Mhm.
Ugh, that was ugly. So, that being said, we already kind of talked a little bit about Span versus Smith earlier, and we touched a little bit on the main, but I do want to give a little more shine here for those who don't know. The main event, Max Bless Holloway versus Chen Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. This is so much more than just a fight, in my opinion. For those who don't know, originally in April of this year, one of the cards we got was in Vegas, but at a real weird set of time. I think the main card started at like 2 a.m. The reason that happened is because they had originally designed an entire card to take place in South Korea to be headlined by Chang Sung-jung for his retirement fight, because he has gone above and beyond to levels that only Cowboy Cerrone can really be compared to in terms of doing for the UFC whatever the fuck they ask of him. At the same time, putting his UFC career on hold for a while to go do his mandatory military service as well. So my hat will forever be fucking tipped to Chang Sung-jung regardless. But in losing the South Korea card, they kept a fight card on in Vegas at that time with some of those fighters, the rest of whom you will see majority on the prelims of this card, because this is as close as they could get back to South Korea. So this, in essence, becomes Chang Sung-jung's retirement fight in his native area, not necessarily in South Korea, but as close as they could get it. And they give him Max fucking Holloway.
Dude, they're not letting him go out on a shield at all. They're just telling him, like,
Fuck
sorry,
no.
bro. Here you go. Here you
Like-
go, man. You know, sorry about your face.
Right? And of all things, during these crazy fucking wildfires going on in Hawaii that have Max Holloway and the world screaming and thriving pro Hawaii everything right now. So as if he already didn't have enough of an uphill fucking battle facing him, now he has to face Max Holloway and the world support for Hawaii being channeled through him like a fucking spirit bomb.
Yep.
This fight has so much going on for it, because just on its face, stylistically speaking, Chang Sung-jung and Max Holloway are almost diametric opposites. Chang Sung-jung is like the epitome of that find your moment and strike sniper that will just put one straight out and level you and put the fucking fight to an end. Whereas Max is that unavoidable snowball of a voluminous fucking striker who might not hit you hard, but he's going to hit you 700 fucking times before the bell rings in the third round. So
Yep.
it creates for a real fun fight. So my question is, do you gentlemen think the feelings that we know that Max Holloway has now that we've seen him at the press, do you think this really does change this fight? And if so, how do you think this plays out now?
Go ahead. I kind of hit on this earlier, but I'm going to kind of just recap what I said earlier. So
I'm gonna go this route. I think he feeds off of it. I said it earlier. I think he's gonna feed off of it. Look, we've seen him in some wars. And there's only been one piece of kryptonite for him. And that his name is Alexander Volkanovski. I love the Korean Zombie, but I don't think he has what it takes to go out on a retirement and beat Max Holloway. I think what the UFC did for him to give him Max Holloway, that is a hell of a way to say, thank you for your career, but we're going to put you into an unwinnable battle and let you go out there and show why you're the Korean Zombie and not get put away. I think we're going to see 5 rounds of fucking, unfortunately, the Korean Zombie getting his ass kicked. However, there's a caveat to this statement. We've seen what the Korean Zombie can do to top-ranked opponents. He was beating the ever-living shit out of Yair Rodriguez. for the entirety of their fight until somebody gets the most lucky bullshit fucking strike you've ever seen in your life to end it. So yeah, we know that he can fucking hold his own. And if you look right now, look who's holding the title, Yair Rodriguez. So we know he can handle the big boys and the big names. But do I think it's enough against a guy like Max who just constantly peppers the fuck out of you? It's a war of attrition with him. And that is a rough fucking war, especially right now when he's carrying an entire state with him. Albeit a small state. They're a strong fucking minded state. I know. I fucking lived there. That's a scary prospect for anybody. I think Max gets it done. And as much as I hate to say it, I hope the Korean Zombies corner is good enough to know, hey, we may have to throw in the towel at some point. Don't let the guy who's going to retire in a fucking wheelchair.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm just banking on that. Just the personally, I feel like you there were a couple of things brought up during this that I completely kind of spaced on about the card being moved and what the Korean Zombie was kind of fighting for at that point. And is that still on his mind now going into this, and Blessed having a little bit of an emotional sleeve going on? Is that going to hinder him? And so, I mean, yeah, it could go one of two ways. I feel like it's Holloway in the fourth KO, or it's a Korean Zombie in the first or second KO. And I think Holloway's going to put him out, not like it's going to be a stoppage TKO. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I think that's what's going to end up happening. So, but yeah, I there's just that chance of that the Korean Zombie could snipe him. You're right. He is a sniper a little bit too. He's got that power. He's definitely, he's got the hand-eye coordination that just sets you on the button. You just touch that button right on your chin. So, but I don't know. Has Holloway actually ever been knocked out? Like, dude, he's got one time. Okay. I was wondering if it was maybe one time. I was going to say, I can't ever remember him being knocked out. Like, the dude's got a chin. So, I just can't see, honestly, the Korean Zombie really eking this out. It's just that I've never seen an emotional Holloway. And you're right. It can propel him into, like, you're probably, if I could, maybe being one of the most lopsided fights in history of the UFC, or if the Zombie's got a chance to just pop him once and just drop him. And who knows? Who knows? I really think it's still Holloway in the fourth, and it'll be by stoppage. It's either going to be by the corner or the ref.
I can definitely understand that. You both make 100% valid points. I agree with a lot of it. For those of you who are listening, I am turning my hat 180 degrees. And for those of you who have seen Over the Top, you will understand why. On one hand, I will say the last time that Max Holloway lost a fight at featherweight to someone not named Alexander Volkanovski was to a gentleman by the name of Conor McGregor. That's also his only knockout in the UFC. His only knockout loss.
Oh, yeah.
On the other side of that coin, though, while everyone is talking about how much Hawaii is fueling Max Holloway, a lot of people seem to be forgetting the fact this is Chang Sung Jung's retirement fight. Max Holloway respectfully requested this fight personally and publicly, and TKZ granted it to him because the Korean Zombie is a man of honor, if nothing else. Knowing he is a man of honor, knowing he is granting a specific request for this fight and giving it his retirement fight, and the sense of pride that man has in his ability, his career, and now essentially his entire legacy being capped off by this fight, added to the fact that we know for a fact Max Holloway is coming into this fight, at least coming into the cage, potentially emotionally compromised with everything going on. That's a witch's brew potential recipe for a TKZ knockout, because the last time we saw Max Holloway come into the octagon with his emotions clearly bothering him was the third Volkanovski fight, where he arguably took the most damage and absorbed the most punches he has in his entire professional fighting career in one night. Chang Sung Jung is not going to try and box him the way that Volkanovski did, but the shots that Chang Sung Jung throws will be infinitely more powerful and more accurate, because Volkanovski was trying to box Holloway style with Holloway. Chang Sung Jung will not do that. He will stand in the pocket, wait for his opening, and then he's going to fucking rock you with a laser beam. And if Max is emotional, and if that retirement motivation is behind TKZ, we could not only see one of the greatest fights of the year, we could see potentially one of the most upsetting knockouts of the year. And I think the Zombie can get it done.
It's very
I love
possible.
Max.
That's why I brought it up in the beginning, because it's just one of those, dude.
I love Max.
After seeing, after seeing Emotional Max, that changed my mind a little bit.
TJ was there with me. We screamed like little girls when fucking Max Holloway walked out to fight Arnold Allen. We were losing our shit as a collective row of human beings. I love me some fucking Holloway. Blessed Express always runs through my goddamn house.
Yep.
But I think with all the factors you're looking at, not MMA math wise, just straight factually, man, I push my chips on Zombie's table.
You're gonna make some bank if you actually push those chips onto that table and he wins.
Well, and
I mean bank
on that. Well, and on that note, after watching last week's fucking press and everything, I pushed my chips all in on a Weidman round 1 KO, and I look like a fucking idiot. But you know what? I'm not afraid to eat crow, and if I'm right, god damn, am I going to be right? If I'm wrong, I'll tell you all about it next week. But well, you'll hear about it Saturday. But no, I
feel
think,
you on that though.
I think there's just as much chance for TKZ to sweep in and steal this whole fucking thunder, and then ride off into the sunset looking like a fucking legend that he is.
Like a boss.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's going to be fun.
Good fight either way. And no matter what, great fight.
Absolutely. But that is what
I don't agree with the odds, but personally.
Right. Yeah, I'm right there with you. But that is what we've got. That's what we've got for this particular episode here. So thank you to everyone who is catching this live on youtube.com/I'm No Joe. We appreciate you. Thursday nights, 9:30 p.m. Central Standard-ish. We go live there. You can catch us in the video format. If not, the podcast also goes up in all audio format over on anchor.fm/I Know Joe. You can pick it up through your podcast consumption platform of choice, Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts. We are everywhere. Check us out. If you like what we do around here, please make sure you give us a thumbs up. You are subscribed and turn your notifications on so you don't miss an episode of the show. You can also subsequently hop over onto the Discord for the I'm No Joe channel, running down along the bottom of the screen, or link down in the description. We make sure to post every time we go live over there, so you won't miss it there as well. That being said, on the opposite side of that coin, if you don't like what we get up to around here, first and foremost, what the fuck are you doing this deep into a podcast you didn't enjoy? Give us a thumbs down and then go fuck yourself. We won't even dispute it. That being said, when things close up shop around here, that's not the end of it, because tomorrow morning and pretty much every Friday morning, fingers crossed, overtime allowed, Christian, our other homie, SlowB, and his hetero life mate Vindog the Booty Hog take part in their podcast, the SlowB and Contemplate podcast. You can catch on Spreaker.com/SlowB and Contemplate. Links are all down in the description. You can also catch those gentlemen on their channel on the I'm No Joe Discord server and holler at them over there. Not to be missed out, though, we also have our new guy here. Ramey does his own podcast as well, Wednesdays and Thursdays-ish, the Mo Canna Culture podcast. We've got his links down in the description as well to get a hold of him and all of his podcast fun as well. Don't forget to check him out.
Thank you much.
Oh, Well, meter is busy. Looks like hogging his lung out. We're gonna go ahead and let you know the meter does more than just this. The meter does do many things. In fact, down below, there is a little link to click on. It is linktree/the meter does many things. And it will take you to all of the many things that the meter does do. Go click on them. Find out all of those wonderful things that the meter does do. It's worth your time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, sir. Sorry, something caught in my throat there. Yeah. Normally, I say as normal as this show can be, on a Friday evening, we will be doing a little gaming around here on the I'm No Joe YouTube channel. Sometimes little Rocket League, sometimes little something else. May not do it every week, but that's generally what Friday nights are going to be for. Not this Friday, though. We are not going to be gaming tomorrow night because, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, kicking off at 4 a.m. Saturday morning is that UFC Singapore card, and we will be here in varying degrees of totality of the show to give you our live fight companion style commentary. So if you are around, feel free to come kick it. If not, that one will be going up a week after it airs live on YouTube as well. So thank you to everybody, first and foremost, who tunes in, whether you're catching us live here on YouTube, whether you're catching us in audio format. We appreciate you just the same. That is all we have got for this particular episode. So remember, boys and girls, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything. Unless it's the Washington Commanders. Leave those guys alone. They suck enough as it is.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kicks were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. How do I say goodbye to what